And we're live. Welcome back to another episode of the DGN Sports Show. I'm Josh. This is Garrett and Adam. We're going to recap our picks from last week and then throw in some NFL games that we like. First game is the Georgia-Oregon game, and it looks like Garrett did the worst in that game.
Bo Nix is not the guy. I've learned my lesson. Moving on.
Like Adam said last week, you should have known from his prior two seasons at Auburn that he was
He beat Bama. He beat Bama.
Nice.
I've learned my lesson.
So
Did he even come in? Did he even come out after halftime? Did he stay in the ball game, or did they switch to another player?
I think maybe after the 12th or 13th pick, they might have replaced him. I'm not exactly sure.
Georgia was playing that rare but and elusive cover 15 that Bo Nix hadn't come across yet. So he ran into a brick wall, it looks like.
Let's go.
Yeah. Arkansas Cincinnati was a good game too, but are you going to show the percentages on that as we do each game? Do you want to do that?
We can get to it at the end. I think this is kind of getting our feet wet with this spreadsheet stuff kind of thing. Let's kind of talk about Georgia just a little bit.
Okay.
So I know Alabama beat Utah State to nothing in what looked like a pretty easy cruise game, but I don't know how you don't make Georgia the number one team in the nation after that, starting the season out. Oregon looked like a middle school JV team, and they probably are going to have a very good season. They just ran into a buzzsaw that maybe some Georgia homers saw coming, but the rest of the country thought it might be a respectable game. I don't think a lot of people picked Oregon to win it, but Georgia just manhandled them and honestly took me by surprise. That was a score that kind of really shocked me this week.
Yeah, it did me too. I wasn't sure what to think. I thought Oregon was going to cover, but I just didn't see Georgia breaking out, coming right off of the national championship and just being world beaters all over again. I thought they'd be great and possibly number one, but not straight out of the gate. Usually everybody has college playoff hangover, but they definitely did not.
Yeah, I definitely thought of Georgia's kind of last year being not really a flash in the pan. I knew that they're always going to have a decent program, but I mean just manhandling. Supposedly good Oregon team. I kind of agree.
What was Oregon going into that game? 11?
11.
Yeah. How far do they fall? Or do you think they get the benefit of Georgia being the best team?
I'd be surprised if they dropped below 20th. I think most of the country, at least the people who make those polls, the voters and stuff like that, they kind of see the situation. It's not like that they got beat that bad by the 10th ranked team. Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama are 1A, 1B, and 1C as far as I see it. Well, now Georgia's probably put themselves ahead, but when you get manhandled by a team like that, you're going to drop pretty far. But I don't see them going unranked. I mean, I think we got to stay reasonable. They probably dropped to 20th. That's my guess. But
I mean, they could go the rest of the season, only lose one or two more games, and come out of it looking pretty good. But I think it's just a worse. You can't pick a worse week one situation than going in against that Georgia team.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to throw out a hypothetical here. Say they make it to the end of the season without losing another game and Georgia's in the playoffs. Are you sticking Oregon in the playoffs?
Probably not. No, I don't think so.
Say they go 11-1, and the first round game would be against Georgia. How do you put them in there?
Yeah, I don't think you can.
Just from a money standpoint, as far as like TV rights and stuff like that. I mean, there's an angle there you could pitch as a rematch, but it would have had to been a closer game for them to even really be able to for that pitch to have any kind of validity.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it depends on their schedule too. I mean, I'm sure you could probably find a 2-loss team that had a lot tougher schedule that they did a lot better in. That would
that doesn't have a
better
full 6-point loss.
Yeah, probably like Texas A&M. They're always in that conversation.
usually. Maybe an Arkansas team.
Yes, that's what I kind of like the dark horse Arkansas pick out of the West. I hear a lot of people talking about that.
It truly sucks for Oregon because I see Georgia making the playoffs, and now they could go undefeated the entire rest of the season, and you know their chance of making the playoffs now is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
First game into the season.
First game.
So our next game is the Arkansas-Cincinnati. It was 7 to Arkansas and 52.5 on the over/under. We all three took overs. I think we all pushed too.
Yeah. Well, I mean the spread was a push, so if you went either way, it was a push. But we all got the over/under right. So
Push is a win in my book just because you don't lose. But I think Arkansas looked fantastic. Just depends on what can they do the rest of the year. I don't know if Cincinnati's... Can they win the rest of their season? Same question. Can they win the rest of their season and still be a contender?
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah. I mean, their strength of schedule is probably not going to be stacked up against some of the other teams that are going to be in the conversation, but you can't exclude a one-loss team like Cincinnati who lost to a ranked Arkansas team on the road. Was that at Cincinnati or was that Arkansas?
It was at Arkansas.
I believe it
Yeah,
was.
so a one-score loss to a ranked SEC team start the season. I don't. I'm sure Cincinnati would like to win that one, but it's not going to ruin their season.
Especially SEC West team that could compete for the West.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think future on, we kind of see how it shapes out. But for Cincinnati's bid, if they do go undefeated the rest of the season, I think it all depends really how Arkansas does in the West. If Arkansas turns out to not be as great as a team as we think they are now, then I think that kind of hurts the resume for Cincinnati to get in, even if they don't lose another game.
Yeah. Like hypothetically, and Arkansas is an 11-1 with a loss to Alabama. That looks really good for Cincinnati. I'm just saying.
They got pretty good. They play Texas A&M and Alabama in back-to-back weeks.
Oh, I didn't know those were back-to-back games. That's a gauntlet.
They still play Ole Miss. They got chances to drop a few, but 2 losses, 3 losses. That's probably where I'm seeing Arkansas. And if Cincinnati wins out, they stuck them in last year as an undefeated team, and they kind of got run out of the building by Alabama. So I think that's probably going to hurt their chances just slightly, just in the eyes of the voters. But as far as being worthy of being in the conversation, then if they went out, I don't see any reason they wouldn't be.
I agree.
All right, Florida, Utah. I am glad that I did not listen to Adam on this one. Thought I was crazy for taking money line. It was a 3-point game. Utah was a 3-point favorite, and it was 51.5. I was just all across the board. I just had no question that Florida was going to win that game.
Yeah, it was a decisive victory. It was in hand the entire time.
Hey,
if Utah hadn't thrown a pick basically in the end zone in the ball game,
a win is a win. A win is a win.
Yeah, but you're talking like you saw it written on the wall.
Oh yeah, I seen that pick. I was dreamt about it the night before. I seen that. I was like, yeah, that's why we're gonna pick them. No, I just base it all off SEC picks. I mean, I just can't go against somebody in the Southeastern Conference and against a Western opponent just because of the difference in players that we recruit. So that's all it was really for me. Even though Utah is a good team, I will say that.
Utah looked really good, and much as I hate to say it, Anthony Richardson, he's a guy. And as UK fans, we're gonna have to deal with that next week. We'll see how really good he is. But yeah, I mean, Florida money line, like Adam said, it wasn't really a decisive victory, but I mean they pulled it off and one hell of a game to be honest.
Looking back on it, I probably still would have gone with Utah on the choice. Anthony Richardson really impressed me, and it kind of put a little bit of doubt in my mind next week for UK. I thought going prior to the season that was going to be not an easy win, but I felt pretty confident about it. But watching how our offense and defensive line played, a good scrambling quarterback like Anthony Richardson it's gonna be a test, and we're gonna see how that goes. But yeah, Florida came out and did what they had to do to get a victory, and good for the Gators. Good for Billy Napier. It's good. It's a good win to start out his coaching career.
Yeah, that might get some pressure off his back because Florida is very quick to pull the trigger on a coach down there.
3 or 4 in the last 5 years.
Yeah, something.
Will
like
Muschamp, Billy Napier,
Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen, and the one Steve. There's another one. Who is it? There's a guy between Muschamp and Dan Mullen.
Yeah, it slipped my mind.
Saying they're always going to have somebody to front the buyout cost, so
yeah,
you got to prove it.
Shortage of money down there in Florida.
No, especially for football.
All right, let's move on to this illustrious Big Ten. Well, Big Ten versus whatever you want to call Notre Dame.
Independent.
17
Future Big
point.
Ten.
Yeah, they might as well switch. 17 for Ohio State, and was that 59.5? I think we should have known it wasn't going to be a high-scoring game, even though I picked the over. And
I just did not see Notre Dame's defense being that good.
Yep.
I mean, it was a fist fight. You can probably look this up. I think Ohio State scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, maybe. I mean, they fought them all game. Like when I saw the score going into the third quarter, I was genuinely surprised because I still believe that Ohio State offense. Adam, you said it last week that you think they're one of the best offenses in the country, and I agree. And I just think Notre Dame's not getting the credit they deserve. You know, I mean, they lost, but at the same time, like I wouldn't want to play them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Notre Dame had a 10-7 lead at halftime. I don't know if anybody recognized that. Yeah, they came out, and the Notre Dame defense really surprised me. I never thought Notre Dame would be a bad team. I just thought Ohio State would be much better, especially on the offensive end. And they got some good plays. They moved the ball pretty well. C.J. Stroud didn't look terrible, but you know, hats off to Notre Dame, and you took my money on that one, bud. I think I got both those calls wrong.
Yeah, I did too. Garrett was the only one that took the under. It was a good pick by Garrett, which, I mean, Notre Dame is a surprise, honestly. Everybody likes to clown on them, but maybe they're a lot better than we all think this year, especially.
Looking at Notre Dame's schedule, that might be another, fringe team where if they went out from here, because the only really competitive games you can see on first glance would be Clemson in November as well as USC. I mean, if Notre Dame wins out, do you think they got any resume to be like, hey, we deserve to be in the playoff this year?
Absolutely. If they beat those two teams and they only lost to Ohio State by 11.
In week 1, too.
Yeah. I think they have probably the strongest case of the other 3 that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Being fringe
teams. That
Ohio
State, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I if they make it to the playoff with 1 loss, I think they're definitely going to be that one team that, the first 1-loss team probably in contention. The only option that I see that they're not the first 1-loss team is if Alabama or Georgia drop one, or they're both undefeated in the SEC championship game, and then somebody has a close loss. If Alabama and Georgia make it to the SEC championship game and it's a 30-point ball game, I think they both still get in. But I think Notre Dame has a pitch to be able to jump whoever the loss team was if it's a pretty big ball game. Truthfully, I don't see them making it to the playoff. I don't know if they can beat Clemson. And also, I think Lincoln Riley's going to have USC a well-oiled machine by the end of the season, and they play them as their 12th game. And I don't see them making it. They can without absolutely they can, but just I don't see them being able to pull out those 2 victories. I think they win every other one. They play BYU, and BYU's not terrible, but if they win what they should win, then they're probably gonna. I see 2 or 3 losses on that schedule.
Yeah, I think they at least drop one between USC or Clemson.
Yeah, I think BYU's also ranked, aren't they?
Yeah, they're 25th right
right
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think best case scenario for Notre Dame, or best realistic scenario, is they drop one more game to either Clemson to USC, and then I think they're the 2-loss Notre Dame team, and their strength of schedule is just not in the cards.
All right, Syracuse, Louisville. 4.5 Louisville, 57.5 was the over/under. I definitely thought that Louisville would maybe have a better season, but is Scott Satterfield on his way out after losing a Syracuse team in football? We're not playing that big 2-3. We're playing football, and he loses by.
Forward.
Yeah, I mean, come
I
on.
will gladly take the loss on this one. I hated picking Louisville to start with, but I thought for sure that was a smart pick. I don't think Scott Satterfield makes it through the season.
I don't either.
Their schedule's not. I mean, it's not insanely hard, but if you have a 24-point loss to Syracuse to start the season, you're going to have some trouble. So I'd be surprised if he makes it through the season. But I think that pretty much makes me pick against Louisville all year long, unless they're playing, Eastern.
Yeah,
they did not. And Syracuse is a good team this year, but they're not known for their football. They're not known for the football team most of the time, and they thoroughly manhandled the Louisville team that had a little bit of hype behind them coming into the season compared to what they did last year. And all I know is I don't know what the spread on the Kentucky game is, but if it's not 55, then I'm going to be outraged.
I would imagine by the end of the season, if Kentucky holds it together, and I think they will, it'll be a massive line.
Yeah, it's like you said, it sucked picking Louisville last week, but we all kind of not really hope, but just trying to be realistic that football's always going to try to compete in football, and it's just. I feel like Southern, his seat was warm coming in the season because it's like if you don't produce, then, they'll get rid of you, and it's already on fire, and we ain't even made it to week 2 yet.
Yeah, which
and for all we know, Syracuse could compete in the ACC. I mean, Clemson's easily the front runner, obviously, but Syracuse might be a lot better. Louisville might turn it around.
Now
it's a kind of bittersweet week, I guess, for UK fans.
It is.
At least ones that betted for Louisville.
Well, the only thing I could see Satterfield keeping his position, I think he has a top 20 recruiting class as of right now for next season. He has a lot of good players coming in. But do you get rid of him and potentially lose those players? Or do you...
I don't think those players are coming there for Satterfield. I think they're there because of the NIL deals, which means that they're going to continue to get those type of players anyway. So I don't think Satterfield's tied too much to their recruiting success.
All right. That's what I need to hear.
I don't think that keeps him. I don't think that keeps him there.
Well, they are.
Truthfully, as a UK fan, I hope they keep him until
Yeah.
I'll get called home.
Sign a lifetime contract right now.
All right, here was another banger of a matchup. Alabama at Utah State. 42-point spread. 62.5 over. There's not much you can say. I don't think there was any question this game was going to be a walk in the park for Alabama. 55-0. They didn't hit the over, but none of us took it. I guess, I said that I didn't see Bryce Young playing past that 12-minute mark in the second quarter, or 8-minute.
We all had the over on that one. Oh no, we all had the under.
I had the under.
Yeah,
because we knew Bama was going to put up points, but I think I said I'd give Utah State 3 points, and they didn't score any. So
Yeah, we said maybe a field goal.
yeah, good job guys.
Yeah, we read that.
The easiest pick probably of the board was Bam Bat.
The biggest spread -42.
Yeah, if you didn't have that in your parlay this last weekend, you're crazy.
And Utah State, I mean, that was their second game of the season. They played UConn the first game and beat them by 11 points. I mean, they beat a Division I football team, albeit it might be the worst Division I football team in Division I. But I mean, they had a victory on their schedule already, and Alabama made them look like a middle school team. So
when you go bottom of the barrel with UConn to the number 1 country.
Yeah.
I mean,
has there ever been a larger change in skill from game to game?
Oh, dude.
Can you imagine the speed difference as just a player on Utah and the skill level? Like night and day, I would imagine.
As a competitor, you always want to compete, but I think they probably saw it just like everybody else did.
Yeah.
Go in there and hope for no injuries and get some good publicity, and get that check that your school's getting for coming to Alabama.
Yeah.
So
Let the SEC write you a big fat check and go back home.
All right, Kentucky, Miami, Ohio. It was a 16-point spread, 55 over under. I think we all knew Kentucky was going to win, even though it did not look the best. Adam was the only one who took the under.
you guys went off on Mark Stoops being pissed off. I just didn't see I didn't see us being able to score at will. Not because I don't think we got a pretty good offense. We're not known to run scores up. That's not the style of football Mark Stoops likes to play. Even in games where he's got that's even in games where he's got a substantial talent gap. We were at that game, and truthfully, the skill guys looked great. Offense looked great when they had time, but the offensive and defensive lines really left something to be fixed. I heard Mark Stoops talk after the game. I don't think it was that the offensive line got beat so much as it was a communication, and they weren't picking up stunts and schemes very well. Which, if that's the case, I don't feel nearly as bad about how the game went. But other than the offensive and defensive line, special teams looked great. We blocked a kick. Barry and Brown had a 100-yard touchdown return and opened the second half. It's the first time since 2009 Kentucky's ran a kickback. Also, fun fact, who was the last I think the last person to run a kickback was David Jones against Eastern Carolina in the Liberty Bowl. Good old Pike County boy.
I believe you were right about that.
I was going to guess Randall Cobb.
It might have been. David Jones, I think he might have been 2008, but
I ain't even going to look that up.
Last one I can remember
I believe you.
Let's think.
David Jones.
David Jones graduated in 2002 from Belfry. Because the 01 season was the last.
Oh, that might have been 2007.
I think his last season was 07. So who would it have been in 09?
That would have been Joker. It would have been one of Joker's first years, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't even remember a skill guy under the Joker.
Like anybody does.
Nah,
most people don't even remember Joker unless they're actual fans.
Yeah.
It's hard. Those are the days of Kentucky past.
Days.
Yeah.
Which we also kind of need to give props to Miami of Ohio. Their offense. I mean that quarterback they got. He's decent. Lane Gabbert's little brother. He's a good little player for them. They're gonna have a real good season. What I'm hoping for is that Miami is much better than the spread kind of said they were, and our offensive line troubles can be fixed with a little bit of coaching. It's not a personnel problem. It's a study problem.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then I feel pretty good going into the season. But we're gonna get an answer to those questions on Saturday. Anthony Richardson is gonna test that defense, and Florida always has a crazy athletic defensive line, so our offensive line is going to have to figure something out quick.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the fact you said that it was a scheme thing rather than, talent, because I thought the running back room did not look great, but if we're missing schemes and not picking up stunts, then those guys are going to struggle carrying the ball. Obviously, we didn't have Chris Rodriguez, but if those guys are picking up their blocks like they're supposed to be, maybe the running game isn't as bad without Chris Rodriguez. Hopefully.
I think now, Miami of Ohio is pretty well favored to be a top team in the MAC, which it is the MAC, but the MAC has some players. I mean, the MAC produces NFL players all the time, so, I mean, they're not really messing around. And I like that you brought up it was Blaine Gabbert's little brother, because during the broadcast, they said his last name, and I was like, makes me think of Blaine Gabbert. And then, like, 30 seconds later, they were like, Blaine Gabbert's, younger brother. And I was like, I think I said son earlier, but yeah. And also with the scheme thing for the offensive line, I mean, if it's communications issues, that's something you can fix in an afternoon. I mean, in all reality. Now, if it's like from a physical standpoint, that's something to be scared about, but that does make me feel a lot better about the rest of the season, because there's a lot of things that went wrong offensively, and 90% of the time it seemed like the offensive line.
Yeah.
So,
Adam, you got any more on that one?
I do, but my fiance is coming in the house, and the dogs are going to go crazy, so I'm going to mute my mic for a second.
All right. Well, we'll go on to Garrett's lock of the week, which he did hit. Congratulations on that.
One of blocks this season.
Iowa at South Dakota State. I was 15.5. We all took South Dakota State to cover. And 44 was the over-under. I didn't think it was going to be a 7-3 game. I thought it was going to be more like a 27-17 or 27-20, something in that area. But
they scored 7 points with no touchdowns.
What was it? 2 field goals and a touchback, or a
field goal and 2 safeties.
A field goal. Oh wow,
that's the most Iowa thing that's ever happened.
No, I don't think I even watched that.
The scored half was 3-0. So I was already like, okay, the under's definitely hitting. And then the next time I checked, it was 5-3, and I was like, oh my Lord. I'm like, Iowa, this is everything anybody ever thinks about Iowa's football program, is scoring 7 points and nothing more in a game, and you don't even get in the end zone. It's insane. But one on locks this season, I will sprinkle in another South Dakota State game in on my locks, because gotta respect the teams that cover.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of thoughts on this one, honestly. It's just
nobody does.
It was, like Adam said, we were at the UK game. We kept peeking over at scores during the tailgate, and I was like, "What is going on over here?" But is Adam still muted?
I'm here.
Okay. Now we're going on.
They didn't score a lot of points. I don't need to say a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think you're more happy as an Iowa fan that you held the opening game opponent to 3 points, or you're pissed off because you only beat South Dakota State by 4?
I think I'm gonna take door number 2. I'd be mad that you win by 4 and not get a touchdown at all. It's that's a scary thought for the rest of the season.
I don't know. I feel like Iowa fans are probably pretty proud of only holding them to 3 points. I feel like they're more excited about that, because they're like, we didn't have to, score many points. We just got to hold them to not a lot. So,
yeah, they do play that style.
Oh, we need a kicker and a few players on defense, and we can win ball games.
We just need a field goal and a couple safeties, and then punt it 16 times, and we'll wrap this game up.
All right, let's go to Adam's lock. Houston and UTSA. 4 points to Houston, and we didn't specify an over.
Yeah, we didn't get to the over-under, so it was just I just kind of threw that out there late. It was a triple overtime ball game, and you know when you go into triple overtime, you score a touchdown or kick a field goal, which is 3 points or 7 points, and the other team either scores a touchdown and goes for two, or you're not going to get a 4 point spread out of an overtime game more times than not. And when it went into overtime, I knew I was pretty much done for. But UTSA came out and played real good, man. A triple overtime ball game against a ranked opponent. They got a bright season ahead of them. They kind of surprised me. They had a great season last year, but I didn't see them being able to continue that just off the odds of what that takes and the work. But they got a good program, and they're going to continue to succeed. And I don't know if I'll pick against them anymore. I promise.
What Garrett say they were 12-1 last year, something like that. That's why you took them to cover.
No, and they lost one. So I think they start. I don't remember, but I know they got to 12-0 at one point.
Yeah.
They were championing for a playoff spot, which I think was kind of like a half joke, but they were undefeated,
Yeah.
But yeah. Shout out Houston. 3 overtimes. I can't even imagine how that would be, especially coming into a lower level team, really a good football program. And shout out Michael Burchett. Got the job done.
All right, let's see these percentages, Mr. Griffith. All right, you can see. Let's see how we did this is as a group, correct?
Well, so we got individual, we got weekly results and yearly results, but being first week of the year, they're the same. But what we've done is we've broke it down into spread bets, over under bets, moneyline bets, and then there's a total percentage of bets placed and the win percentage of that. So for me, I went 3-5-1 in the spread this week, which is terrible. And basically, if it's a push bet, it doesn't get factored into the percentages, so it's just basically a wash as if you didn't place it. So this week I was shooting a immaculate 37.5% on my spread bets, but then in the over under, I went 6-2, so that's a 75% win rate on bets placed on over unders this week, and I didn't do any money line bets. So total on this week, I did 56.25% on my bets. So if I would have placed, $50, I would have got back $6.25. Now that's if they were even money bets. We need to fix that next week and factor in what plus minuses the odds are on each bet. But as of right now, we're just gonna operate as if they were even money bets. So I got a 6%, actually a 12.5% increase on what I bet. So Garrett had the best performance of the week. He had he was the only one with an above average pick spread on the spread bets. He 62.5%. That's pretty good. 6-2 for the over under percentages, so 75.5 there. So on all bets, he every 2 bets every 3 bets he hit 2 of them, and he also had a money line bet win, which would have if we factored in the odds on this, it would have raised that. But we'll get to that next week. Blackburn was 50% on spread, so money back. 57 and change on over under bets, and he hit his only money line bet for Florida. So that percentage came out to 56.25%, but it's gonna be a little bit more than that, truthfully, because that money line odds are gonna raise that percentage slightly, but we'll factor that in next time. But we're gonna keep tabs on these percentages as the year goes on, and just see if we can remain profitable. See if we might even quit our jobs down the road. Who knows?
That'd be fantastic.
We've also flirted the idea of punishments for the lowest.
And if anybody watching this video has an idea for any type of punishment, let's keep it friendly, but drop a comment on any of these videos. Let us know what your idea is. We might end up using one. But Thursday night the NFL starts, and this is more of Garrett's bread and butter. Adam, you can put screen away if you want to.
Yeah, I'm a college football fan. Don't get me wrong, but NFL is where I really like to shine, and so this is a big week, big week.
So I'm just gonna go in order here. The first game, we're only gonna do 6 NFL games. We aren't gonna do a lot, but Bills Rams. It is 2.5 to the Bills, and the over under is 53.
Take it away, Garrett. You're the specialty on NFL games. You need to think about it.
So this game is in LA, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So 2.5, Bills 2.5. I'm 100% taking the Rams money line.
Oh.
Covering, and I'm pounding the over at 53. I think 100% this is going to be a shootout. The only things that do concern me with that is you got two really good defenses, but these are two explosive offenses, and I just don't see this game not ending, 42 to 37 or something ridiculous. Rams, I mean, Matt Stafford finally gets on a good team last year, immediately wins the Super Bowl. Cooper Kupp had a historic receiving season. I just don't see how the Rams don't take care of business.
Yeah, okay. I am going to also take the exact same bet as Garrett. The Bills are 0-4 when they rush less than 100 yards. And I do not see them rushing for 100 yards against the Rams defense. So, if that stat holds true, I think the Rams should absolutely demolish them. But, and at a 2.5, it's hard to not take the Rams. So, I'm also taking the over money line and the cover. Yeah.
I am going to take the over. The first game of the season, everybody wants to see fireworks, and defenses aren't tuned into the speed of the players yet. I think the over is going to hit pretty easy. 51 is real low. As far as the spread, I'm actually going to take the Bills money line and the spread on that one. I think the Rams, although they are coming off Super Bowl and Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp are a dynamic duo, they did lose Odell Beckham. They lost Von Miller. They lost a couple other pieces on the defense that's going to loosen that defense up a little bit. And the Bills, I think Josh Allen, I think his time in the NFL is starting to come, and he's going to be top tier. I think the Bills are going to be one of the best teams in the NFL this year. I think they'll probably make Super Bowl this year. This year, Mahomes is down, and I'm going to pull the upset. I'm going to say the Bills are going to take this one in week 1.
So you have Bills money line and the over.
Yeah, and spread.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you just said. My biggest concerns. So the Bills have lost their offensive coordinator that Josh Allen has flourished with, and Brian Daboll, who's now the head coach of the Giants. I do believe it is Josh Allen time. I think the Bills are definitely winning a Super Bowl with Josh Allen. Last season, first game of the season, they played Pittsburgh in Buffalo, and Pittsburgh won that game. Who was a better team? It was 100%. It was Buffalo. I think Buffalo, they just needed some time during the season to really get their footing, kind of like they did last year. And I think they're just going to drop a few games like any other NFL team. And I definitely don't like the matchup here with the Rams week 1. So,
yeah, I could see them losing this game and then potentially not losing another. Who knows?
And Allen Robinson's on the Rams.
Yeah.
Just as a quick reminder, and this is his best situation he's been in his entire career while he's still been, a top 15 wide receiver. So I think he's going to completely contribute, take up that place for OBJ being gone, as well as Robert Woods. So as a receiving core, having Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, as well as Van Jefferson, who played fantastic towards the end of last season, I think they're going to be pretty tough out.
Yeah. All right, the next game, Bucks Cowboys. Last season they opened the season against each other. Bucks won 31-29. I think the story out of that game was Trevon Diggs. He had 11 picks last season, but he picked Brady off one time, start that game, second quarter maybe. I think I seen Godwin's got. They say he's practicing without a knee brace, so that's good for the Bucks. And Mike Evans has not finished a single season under 1,000 yards in 9 years. It's gonna be a good game to watch, personally. I think it'll be fun.
What's the spread and the over under on that?
Let's see, 1.5 bucks and 50.
I'm gonna take the Cowboys money line and the over. I think that there's a lot going on in Tampa Bay this year that's got a lot of confusion. I don't think Brady, with that interview, said he's a 45-year-old man with a lot of stuff going on. Leonard Fournette came in at 240 pounds. Gronk's gone. Chris Godwin's out. There's a lot going on for Tampa, and I just don't see them having it all together to start the season. I think the Cowboys, if they're ever going to have a chance to do anything with Dak and Zeke, it's got to be this year. They got a pretty good defense. Trayvon Diggs had a great year last year. Micah Parsons was Rookie of the Year and should have, if it wasn't for T.J. Watt, probably would have won Defensive Player of the Year. So I think that with everything going on in Tampa and the Cowboys needing this to be their year, I'm going to take them and the over in that. I think Brady scores a few touchdowns, but I think that I think the Cowboys get more points.
Completely agree. I had the same exact pick. My biggest concerns when it comes to Tampa Bay is they've lost at least 2 of their starting linemen, during training camp before preseason even started.
Left guard tore ACL and MCL, I believe.
I mean, we know the biggest downfall of Brady is his mobility right now, and if he's running for his life all game for Micah Parsons, they have a great receiving core. Leonard Fournette is a heck of a running back. Don't get me wrong; their offense is going to be good, but offensive line is just kind of sketchy at the moment. It's kind of see how they shape up, and that Cowboys defense is. I mean, they beefed it up. My biggest takeaway is, like you said, it has to be if Dak and Zeke are going to do it. This is when they have to do it. Zeke has been completely useless for the most part, other than his rookie season. If he goes to any level similar to how he did his rookie season, the Cowboys are Super Bowl contenders without a doubt. CeeDee Lamb coming on his second year. He's going to be a top 10 wide receiver. I just don't see how the Cowboys don't take care of business. And 1.5, I got the Cowboys winning by 10.
Ooh.
So I've taken Cowboys money line.
Yeah, we all agree on this one. I have the same bet. Money line over spread.
And 50 points for those offenses,
yeah,
I just think is way too low.
Brady's going to find a way to score. We've all seen him do it. Even when he's overmatched and down, he always makes it a tight game. He's a competitive machine.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it's an easy over. Chargers, that's Chargers Raiders. Yeah. The Chargers are a 3-point favorite, and it is a 52 over under. Derek Carr and Devontae Adams are back together. Do they still have that Fresno State magic?
Bulldogs. Very good.
I will say 100% that they do. I still got to take the Chargers to cover that game.
Ooh.
The over under at 52. This is going to be 100%. This is going to be 42 to 35, something like in that range. It's going to be a complete shootout. I mean, the biggest things like people complain or people want to talk about Derek Carr is, not being an elite quarterback. And, maybe he's not, but at the same time, he puts up numbers consistently every year. They just never go anywhere with it.
Yeah. And
you add Devontae Adams to that mix, as well as you also have Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, and then a backfield like they do with, Josh Jacobs. Like, they're going to score, and they do have Max Crosby, who they paid in the offseason. He's going to be great defensively. just those teams together, it's gonna be kind of like last year, the last game of the season. It's gonna be a shootout. Might even see some overtime, but I think the Chargers take it and pound the over.
So you've taken
Yeah,
Herbert to cover their past of not being very well, which you can't put any blame on him in his start of his third season. But I don't know how I feel about that. I got to think more on this one. I can see what Adam has to say.
I think that the Chargers are going to have the best offensive team in the NFL this year. The Raiders are. I think that Derek Carr is massively underrated. I think he's had more fourth quarter wins than I think anybody else in the league. Adding Devontae Adams is only going to help him. He's a constant, successful quarterback that nobody really talks about a lot. I just think the Chargers are too loaded. I think Justin Herbert's going to be a pro, and if barring injury, a future Hall of Famer. I think he's got a long career in the NFL. And you got Keenan Allen, you got Mike Williams, you got Austin Eckler in the backfield. They're loaded on offensive talent, and I don't see even though the Raiders have a great defense, I just don't see them being able to hold them to low points like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was this the game to end the year last year that let the Steelers in the playoffs?
So if they would have tied,
Yeah,
the Steelers wouldn't have made the playoffs after having the Jaguars beat the Colts to get them out of the playoffs and let Pittsburgh get in. Yeah, and it almost went to a tie. Yeah, it was one of
the Chargers called
games.
timeout with 1 second left, and they were trying to run it out, and they kicked it.
One of the roughest games I had to watch last year, and it wasn't even the Steelers weren't even playing.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna take the Chargers to cover and the over.
One little note on the Chargers. I think one of their worst offseason moves was season before last when Hunter Henry went to New England. If Hunter Henry was still on the Chargers right now, with Justin Herbert not in his rookie season, him rolling, with all that offensive explosion, I could see them winning 2-3 Super Bowls in the next 10 years. I mean, ridiculous amount of talent on that offense. And they still have it. I mean, I might just be a Hunter Henry believer, but the Chargers, they're my number one pick coming out of the AFC West this year. And it's going to be definitely contentious, but yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to go against you because I do think that the Raiders' defense got better, and they will put a little pressure on Herbert, but I'm putting all my faith into Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. I like that they're back together. So I'm going to take Raiders money line. And
bold bet, it's spread 1.5.
It's 3.
3. Okay, well that's fine.
Okay. And I'm going to actually take the under because I think that defense is going to keep a low-scoring game. Just to clarify, Garrett, you had Chargers to cover and the over?
I am the over.
Okay.
That over could be 60 points. I say give it to me.
All right.
There's just going to be points.
My favorite game of the week, only because me and Garrett are mortal enemies when these teams play. Steelers and Bengals. Bengals are 6.5, and it is 44. Garrett, you have the floor.
All right. So I'm a diehard Steelers fan. We all know this. Well, you all know this. If you watch this first time, you probably don't know that. You will learn that. But I'm also a realist. It was announced today that Mitch Trubisky is our starting quarterback on the depth chart.
Yep.
I don't have a problem with that, but at this point, I would rather see Kenny out there. I got the Bengals. I think they're beating us by 2 scores. I just think Bengals did nothing but got better in the offseason. The offensive line was a major concern last year. I mean, they signed some dudes. That offense is going to keep rolling. Their defense, I don't see how it gets worse. I mean, if their defense is any level to what they played towards the end of last season, I'm just shaky when it comes to Mitch's first year in Pittsburgh, as well as our offensive line concerns because I'm not fully sold that we really helped ourselves in this offseason yet, just based on off preseason games. So, two good defenses going after it. So I'm taking the Bengals to cover, but I'm definitely taking the under.
Yeah, I have the exact same bet because Eli Apple came back this week. They said he looks healthy. Drew Sample and Mitchell Wilcox, both tight ends,
You
are
get
back
DC
in
Bates
practice.
back as well.
Yeah, so the Bengals look to be fairly healthy, and like you said, the offensive line for the Steelers is what my question mark was. I hate to
It's
say
still
it,
a question mark. It's still a question mark.
It is. I just, I don't know that we'll watch that game together, but I'll definitely be sending you some text messages.
Well, you said it was 6, and the over/under was what?
6.5 and 44.
I'm gonna take the over. I think it's close to that, but I'm gonna take the over. And I think that when those two teams play, it's always close. I think that there's gonna be a little bit of hangover from the Super Bowl, the Bengals. I don't think that the Steelers are gonna win the ball game, but I think it's a close ball game. It's the first game of the year. There's a lot of mayhem going around. I think the Steelers, I really, really like George Pickens, their draft pick. And I think that, Mitch Trubisky, he's the most vanilla, average quarterback that has entered the SEC the NFL in the last 5 years. He's I think in the future, if they're going to go that direction, but I think if you're going to put Mitch Trubisky out there, you can't expect firepower. And I think that there's going to be a little bit of hangover for the Bengals as far as them coming out and crushing the Steelers. I just don't. Mike Tomlinson usually runs a pretty tight knit program there, and I don't see him allowing them to get blown out like that. So just for the sake of a different pick and rooting for a good ball game, I'm going to take the Steelers to cover that. I don't think they win, but I think it's a field goal ball game. But I'm going to take the over.
I respect it.
Well, you made Garrett a little happy with that pick.
No, hey, I'll take it. Anybody that has any hope in it, with what we have right now, we're not in a rebuilding process. I don't believe it's just a year or two from getting the pieces we need. Yeah. I like that you brought up George Pickens, who I think is going to be insane. Him and Deontay are just, quite possibly. Well, we haven't seen George Pickens play yet, but I'm predicting one of the best tandems in the NFL as wide receivers.
That would be a fantastic tandem. But who's going to be the third guy? Who's the guy nobody's talking about?
Well, probably your big guy that can run down the sideline, Chase Claypool.
Yeah. I was wondering if you was going to say Claypool or Freiermuth.
Well, he's a tight end. I mean, strictly wide receivers. Claypool, he's kind of go up and get it type of wide receiver. Throw it up to him. He's massive as a human being. Freiermuth had a hell of a season last year as a rookie tight end. And to say it about Mitchell Trubisky, he is very vanilla as a quarterback. He did take the Bears to the playoffs with a team coached by Matt Nagy. That man deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for being able to do that. Matt Nagy is one of the worst head coaches the NFL has seen in the past 15 years.
Yeah.
And he went to the playoffs he won Coach of the Year when he was coaching Mitch Trubisky. Mitch is not a bad quarterback. He's just been in the worst possible situation in Chicago. And he spent a year, backing up Josh Allen last year in Buffalo. And when he got signed by Pittsburgh, it was nothing but love from Buffalo. I mean, they all loved him. Yeah. He's just not a hateable guy. So if he can produce, then I'll never say a bad word about him. But I think at some point in the season, it's Kenny Pickett time, 100%.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
We could talk about Pittsburgh and Bengals. I mean, it's AFC North football. It's going to be a smash mouth game. We'll just see how it plays out Sunday, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. Pats Dolphins. I'm excited about this game.
Oh, yeah.
The Dolphins are a 3-point favorite, and it is 46.5 over under.
Adam, take this one.
Oh God. I'm gonna. Truthfully, I think I'm gonna take the under. Belichick doesn't let things get too far out of hand. I think I'm gonna take the Dolphins. Tua Tua has been getting rave reviews out of training camp and preseason. They got Jalen Waddle, who had one hell of a rookie season last year, and they got Tyreek Hill, fastest player to ever walk on a football field.
Yeah.
So I think that they've got enough offensive firepower now that they'll be able to win the ball game. I don't think that Belichick's going to let it get hand because he's a sneaky good defensive minded coach. Like, to give you the kind of level of things that Bill Belichick thinks about, I was listening to an interview. It wasn't with it wasn't Amendola. Who's their little bearded wide receiver that they've had for 15 years? Edelman, Julian Edelman. Sorry.
Oh.
I don't know why that name.
I thought you were talking Dolphins.
No, I'm talking about the Patriots. He said that he was using white gloves, and they were playing. I don't know who they were playing, but Julian Edelman, when he would come up the block, Belichick came to him and told him to change his gloves because they could see when he was holding because his gloves stood out from the opposing team's. So that's the kind of thing that Bill Belichick thinks about. Yeah. Like, okay, like if you put that level of detail into your pregame planning, and I'm not saying you want to promote holding, but when you're putting that kind of detail into something, your defense is going to be pretty good, as it always has been. And I don't see him allowing the Dolphins to score a crazy amount of points. But if it's only a 3-point spread, I'm going to take the Dolphins. I wouldn't be surprised to see it push in that ball game, but I'm gonna take the Dolphins in that one. I do think Mac Jones is a good quarterback, and he's going to be the prototypical system quarterback for Belichick that he wants him to be.
Absolutely.
I think I'm going to go with what the news has been saying about Tua and Tyreek as a tandem pair, and Jalen Waddle, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm also taking the Dolphins, but I'm taking the over. The Dolphins are known to be a nightmare for the Pats. It always, even when Brady was there, it seemed like they could still pull one out from under them. I'm interested to see how Tyreek fits there, and if Tua. We all know Tua wasn't the best thrower in college. He was a great team manager, though, when he was at Alabama. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But I do think the Dolphins are going to eventually be better than what we're used to. I did see today, too, that it's going to be cold in New England all week, so they are flying tomorrow to Palm Beach to practice because he's afraid of the heat getting to his players. Talking about stuff that Belichick thinks about. He's prepped ahead for this week.
Well, I'm going to have to roll with Adam's pick on this. Fins up, man. Fins up. I would say it's crazy to think we're in 2022 that it's week 1 in the NFL. We're picking the Dolphins to beat the Pats. And the Pats still being coached by Bill Belichick. But I just think the Dolphins got too many guys on offense right now. Of course, it completely depends on how Tua plays. If he plays like he did last year, who knows? But, I mean, if Tua does any better, if Tua stays where he's at, I think you got enough skill guys to be able to compete in the AFC East other than maybe like Buffalo. I got to take the under, though, because I think Tua's going to be their biggest downfall when it comes to this offense. So I think they're going to put up points, but I think it's going to be mostly a defensive game. And Blackburn, you pulled up talking about how the Pats, like their weakness is Miami for whatever reason. I'm pretty sure there's a number on that. It's usually the second time they play later in the season that like the Pats have lost like the last like 6 out of 7. Like it's a ridiculous stat line.
I think it was in the second game of the year, they're like 8-2. The Dolphins are.
Yeah.
Because as it gets later in the year, of course, up north it gets colder, and they already used to it, and it doesn't really get colder in Miami. So
it's so weird to think that like if there is a kryptonite to Bill Belichick, it's playing the Dolphins the second time around in an NFL season.
I seen
But
something else too. So Belichick has never lost to the same team 3 times in a row. This will be game number 4. I should have prefaced that before we picked, but this is game number 4 against the Dolphins. I think he's lost the last 3. I'm still gonna roll with the Dolphins though. I think they're better than the normal teams we look at.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Dolphins. Adam said it could be a push. I could see that happen as well. I don't think it's gonna be a high scoring affair though.
All right, last game of the week.
Devontae Parker's in New England, by the way. He's no longer in Miami. He's on New England. So
I forgot about that.
you'll hear that name, you will immediately think Dolphins. He's in New England now.
So we got Ravens, Jets. Ravens are a 7-point favorite, and the over/under is 44.5. This one, we all know the Jets of yesteryear. They've been terrible for a while. Well, not completely terrible, but Zach Wilson is back, but he's not 100%.
He's too busy chasing after his mom's friends.
Yeah. I was waiting for somebody to bring it up.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
do we know if Zach Wilson's starting that game?
I don't think it's been announced.
I think it's Joe Flacco. I think he's out for the first couple seasons. That's wild to think about, but I think that's going to be electric. Flacco, week 1, playing against the Ravens while he's a Jet.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Ravens to absolutely kill the Jets. 7 is, I think the Ravens -7 is kind of disrespectful. I say they will win by 20, and I'm pounding over.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna take the Ravens to go as well. I think until the Jets prove to me at all that they're actually an NFL football team, I'm not gonna bet on them at all. Last year, just were there, man. They just showed up. But I think Lamar's gonna have a pretty decent season this year. I think last year NFL teams kind of figured him out a little bit, but the only red flag I see is the Ravens receiving corps. They don't have anybody. They lost Hollywood Brown, their only legitimate target. I think they might have drafted 1 or 2 guys, but until that gets proven, I don't see the Ravens being a crazy top tier NFL team. But I do still put them leaps and bounds above the Jets. So I'm going to take the Ravens to cover that -7 and 6.
45.5 or 44.5.
44.5.
I'll take the under. I don't. 10 points from the Jets, 31 from the Ravens. That seems about right.
Yeah.
All right.
I am taking the exact same thing. Ravens and the under. Lamar's going to take over when he needs to. We've all seen him do it. But they don't have any receivers.
They got Rashad Bateman going into his second year, I think. I could see him. He's obviously already like the wide receiver 1 for that team because there's not a lot of depth. But I could see him being very productive this year. I think it mostly comes down to Lamar. I mean, if he can make throws when he needs to make throws, instead of 10-yard slants to Mark Andrews 30 times a game,
Which I did see the Jets did put some money into their offensive line, made some changes.
Mm-hmm.
So
the Jets are trying. That's about as far as I can say.
They get an A for effort in preseason.
All I know is Yahoo Fantasy sure wanted me to draft Breece Hall, putting him up there as like a top 30 ranked player. Yeah. I don't see that coming. It's hard for me to pick a running back on a team that's going to be behind all season because they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. So I just don't see him being that top tier player in fantasy. But if you ask Yahoo about him, you'd think he was the next coming of Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I ever wanted a Jets running back on a fantasy team was Chris Ivory, like 7 years ago, when he had back-to-back games rushing over 200 yards. Since then, you couldn't pay me to have a Jet running back.
Yeah, no, me neither.
It might change. I mean, they are trying. I think that's as far as we could say.
Yeah, we'll see.
There's effort.
Well, we got week 1 college in the books. Week 1 NFL starts this week. A bunch of good games. I'm excited for the weekend. A full weekend of football, not just sleeping on Sundays. So,
Do we want to talk potential MVP candidates? Early predictions.
ooh.
Yeah, I'll throw it. We can do that. We can throw out Super Bowl teams, winner, and MVP candidate. We can just throw that out real quick.
Just super early. Don't have to mean anything.
Yeah, it's not gonna mean
Throwing out
anything, but we'll
Okay.
do something like, yeah.
Well, I'll let you all start then, because I wasn't totally prepared. But I bet you money Garrett's already got something in mind.
I got Justin Herbert, man. He's my MVP. That's just I just don't see how he doesn't just have a ridiculous year. Them winning the West, how far they go in the playoffs, I know it doesn't really mean anything towards MVP. Justin Herbert, I don't know the exact odds on Justin Herbert right now for MVP, but Super Bowl, that's where it gets kind of tricky, and I'd hate to say it, but I'm gonna put the Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
Oh boy. You just made every Cowboy fan's day by saying
Hey
that.
man, it has to happen at some point, even though it won't. It just has to happen. But Cowboys, and then I'm gonna go Bills. I feel like that's a pretty vanilla choice for right now.
Cowboys,
Adam looks
Bills.
disgusted right
No,
now.
I'm not disgusted. You just took some teams. To me, it comes down one side. It's either the Bills or the Chargers. It's one or the other. I think I'm going to give the nod to Josh Allen just because he's a little older than Justin Herbert, but Herbert's definitely on his way up. I think for the other side, I'm going to go with the Bucks, man. I'm gonna say Brady's gonna at least get there and have a ride out. Chris Godwin will be back. Yahoo Fantasy sure as heck thinks Gronkowski's gonna be playing this year. So I'm gonna say Bills and Bucks, and I'm gonna say that the MVP this year is gonna be it's gonna be Josh Allen or it's gonna be Herbert, but I'm gonna give the nod. Actually, just stats wise, I think I'm gonna go with Herbert too. Just stats wise, I think he's got too many weapons to not have a fantastic season, and but I'm gonna go Bills and Bucks.
I wouldn't mind seeing Aaron Rodgers three-peat it. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Just don't think he has enough weapons this year, man. Like,
No.
He doesn't.
only way that changes is if they sign Odell, and Odell comes back midseason. That's the only way. And I kind of hope somebody picks him up because I drafted him, and I need a team to pick him up to put him on IR. So I need him to go on IR or something.
That would be
if the Packers front office is watching this.
sign Odell.
I'm his agent, so I mean I get like 10% of that now.
Yeah. You single-handedly got Odell signed to an NFL team.
Yeah. Hey, I can move mountains.
I also think the Bills are going to get there, and it's going to be Josh Allen. I hate to say the same thing you all said, but we all agreed on it earlier, so I don't see any problem. I mean, I don't know. Can the Rams do it again? Possibly.
I mean, possibly the Cardinals too if they figure it out late season.
That'd be nice. It'd be good for my fantasy
D
team.
Hop comes back week 6 or 7.
6.
6.
It might be coming back week 7. I think he's suspended first 6.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say Bills Rams, just off the top of my head, and then the Rams are gonna lose. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that too.
Imagine the storyline: Rams beat Bills week 1, and then they meet again in the Super Bowl, and the Bills get revenge.
That's very possible.
All planned out.
Well,
I've got one last prediction I want to ask you all: is the worst team in the NFL, and why? And who else would it be other than the Chicago Bears?
nobody.
The Atlanta Falcons.
That's the only other team I would accept as an answer.
The Atlanta Falcons.
Is Matty Ice still in Atlanta, or is he like
No.
a million years old now?
Detroit now? Where's he at?
He's at Detroit. Indianapolis.
Oh, the Colts. Yeah.
Jared Goff is
Still
on
in
his
Detroit.
That tells you how much I've paid.
third year before his contract's up in Detroit because they took over his contract when he got traded.
How bad do you feel if you're him? Hey, let's get you out of here so we can win Super Bowl.
That's got to be rough,
exactly
man.
that.
It's got to be rough.
Yeah, that is the worst.
But he gets to hang out with Dan Campbell every day, so that's kind of cool, you know.
Truthfully, I can't think of a worse place to play than Detroit.
No.
They told me if they told me, hey, you're leaving LA and you're going to Detroit.
Just strictly geographically, like, I don't think you can find a worse place. Maybe Green Bay.
I mean, at least I know the Detroit fans are insanely passionate about Detroit fans, but they don't touch the passion of a Green Bay Packers fan. They got four things in Wisconsin: cheese, cows, beer, and the Packers. And you got a 25% chance of being that community's god. So, as well.
I mean, that kind of sounds like Kentucky without the Packers, because
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
I love beer and I love cheese. Cows are great.
Well, I guess we can wrap up, and we'll have another spreadsheet ready for next Monday. We are going to do college football again on Thursday. I had a good time again. It's good to see my boys. So, we will see you Thursday, not late.
See y'all.
See ya.